Please, your question.
Mr. Agre, in the beginning of the lecture, you said something about your family. Can you please tell us how did your family help you in your research?
So the question, I think we all heard, how did the family help you with their research?
Yeah.
Well, first off, I think they kept things focused. When you have small children who are hungry, they could care less about their father's great, brilliant scientific career. I think children have a way of cutting through all of the pomp and arrogance that scientists sometimes have. Plus, they made it fun. They all came to the lab. They all knew what I was working on. I have to point out that our 4 children have gone in different directions. None of them are laboratory scientists, but they're each following their passion. I think their emotional support, their friendship, and we're still very close, was really a major factor in staying with the work as long as I did. And I think this is not rare. I think other scientists will say the same thing. The support of our family, our friends, in particular our family, are irreplaceable in terms of having the confidence to go forward. So I can't tell you what's specific in it, but, well, actually I can. One of our children introduced me to her classmate when she was 6 years old at an ice cream social. She points to the child's father, that's Gracie's dad. And Gracie's dad was Stephen McKnight, a well-known molecular biologist who I met. Because of my child, I worked in his lab doing a sabbatical. I learned to clone DNA and clone the hormones. So even suggestions for the work sometimes come from family members. Did I answer your questions?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
This question would be a bit more scientific. You have said that aquaporins are present throughout the nature. So maybe so that, for example, the bacteria also have such properties. Can we somehow use our knowledge about the aquaporins to fight some bacterial diseases?
So the question is about, are aquaporins a target for antibacterial therapy?
Yes.
And of course, this is the notion we have of glycerol transporting malaria. So far, the indications are that they're probably not good drug targets. The diffusion of water seems to be enough for the bacteria to survive. But maybe we didn't do the experiments correctly. Maybe they have potential we have not identified. To this day, I think the notion that they may be good antibacterials has not been demonstrated. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes.
There's actually a question that a young lady raising her hand. Thank you so much. Could you give her the microphone, please?
Here, your question, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Скажите, пожалуйста, есть ли сегодня уже лекарства, которые используют как мишень аквапорин?
Okay, I need to translate. I can't progress.
Повторите вопрос, здесь плохо слышно.
Есть ли сегодня уже лекарства, которые используют аквапорин как мишень?
There are drugs which use aquaporин as target.
Yes.
There is targeting of aquaporin.
Sure. Are there drugs that use the aquaporins as a target? Well, the naturally occurring neuropeptide vasopressin uses aquaporin too to travel to the cell surface. There are not yet medications that inhibit aquaporin, but people are looking for this to inhibit them in certain clinical states. So I think right now there are no medicines on the market, but there are clearly examples where known pathways in physiology are now understood. So if there are any pediatricians here, they'll be aware that when a premature infant is born, after 7 to 8 months of gestation instead of the full 9 months, one of the major toxicities is immature lung. The inability to remove fluids from the space. And it was Landon King's picture I showed in the rat model that glucocorticoids, cortisol, leads to a massive upregulation and expression of aquaporin 1 in the pulmonary microvasculature, thereby explaining why premature infants born to mothers who are treated with corticosteroids do so much better. So it is an action. It was understood before, or it was recognized before, but it was not understood. We still don't have any anti-aquaporin agents available. Mercury chloride is not a practical way of treating fluid retention.
Я очень кратко, если да, помогу. Нету лекарств настоящих, которые связывались бы с аквапорином, но есть регуляция с помощью вазопрессина, В2 антагонисты, которые участвуют в регуляции встраивания аквапорина в мембрану, и глюкокортикоиды, которые экспрессию аквапорина регулируют, тем самым можно воздействовать через этот механизм.
Okay. Other questions?
Еще вопросы?
Еще вопрос, Александр, Виталий. Мой вопрос про стимулятор. Вы в начале речи сказали, что хотели бы достичь лидерства в научно-исследовательской деятельности. А как вы собирались это сделать?
Можно еще раз? Тут очень плохо доходит звук. Громче, если можно.
Вопрос к стимулятору. Как вы собираетесь достигать лидерства в научно-исследовательской деятельности?
Как вы собираетесь участвовать? Что делать? Я не знаю. Сейчас how you select leaders?
The question was how will you achieve success in scientific leadership? In scientific leadership.
Yeah, thank you for the question. As you know, AstraZeneca is a global innovation-driven pharmaceutical question. So for us, scientific leadership is all about how do you really accelerate, discover, and develop innovative medicines to patients. So we're taking 3 steps. First, we are focused on the area of research and development, on area of science and the disease that we think give us the best chance and advantage, which including cancer, that's the first area. Second area is cardiovascular disease and metabolic disease. The third area is respiratory inflammation and autoimmune disease. The second approach we're taking is to accelerate and continuously develop our late-stage pipeline so we can move those projects to patients faster. And finally, we're also trying to collaborate with scientific community, both in US, in Europe, as well as in other emerging market countries to accelerate finding new ways to develop new molecules and also to identify opportunities to actually discover and develop those molecules together to enrich our pipeline. So hopefully that's give you a quick summary of the 3 steps we're taking to achieve scientific leadership. Thank you.
Еще вопросы? Пожалуйста.
У меня вопрос к профессору. Скажите, пожалуйста, в своих экспериментах вы изучали ли влияние структуры воды на свойства аквапорина?
So in
Did you
this
study
study
the
the
effect of
structure,
water
influence of the
structure?
water, the structural ingredients. So we did some structures and I presented the work, but I pointed your attention to a paper published last week in Science magazine by Richard Neutsche from Göteborg, Sweden, with sub-angstrom structural aquaporins. I believe it's a bacterial aquaporin, and it shows a lot of physical characteristics that we could never predicted from our work. So it's still an area of ongoing work, and I believe the paper in Science is a very important one. Thank you for your question. structure of water. I don't know anything about the structure of water. Is there a chemist in the audience, please? A real chemist anywhere?
For me, very important answer. Thank you very much. I mean, we need to listen. Пожалуйста.
Could you tell something about your education and how and when you decided to deal with this very area of the science?
So the question is about my education and when did I decide to deal with this area of science?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's clear that I became interested in science early in my life because my father was a chemistry professor. But I also had a lot of other interests. My mother was a farm girl. She read widely on her own, and I think both are very important. So the education was in public schools. I was not from a wealthy family. I was a good student. I was not an exceptional student, but I had some exceptional experiences. And I frankly think the trip I made to Russia when I was 17 years old may have been more important than many of the classes I took, because it allowed me to connect with people who we never see in a nation which our government considered an enemy, hostile nation. So it all comes into our lives. My scientific career sort of evolved because we discovered something rather than we were seeking that. So there's a lot of luck involved. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Еще будут вопросы? Пожалуйста.
Можно?